All right, so now I've been rambling on about why we should use flyweight and what are the problems if we have so many objects and what solutions do we have. And we already know flyweight is a good thing, but we don't yet know what it is exactly or how it is implemented. So that's what we're gonna look at now. But first, let's look at the definition so you can remember why this design pattern is called flyweight. So if you Google flyweight, you get this result, a definition. It basically says that it's a term used for very light boxers between 48 and 51 kilograms. So they're quite light. And yeah, I took the liberty and used an example from Game of Thrones. So some of you might have seen it. This is Oberyn Martell and the Mountain, who fought in Game of Thrones against each other. And this guy, the Mountain, would be the heavyweight boxer, you know? Compared to him, he's just a flyweight, yeah? Oberyn Martell is I don't know how much he weighs, but he's definitely, compared to the other guy, a flyweight. And that's how our instances should look like. They should be very small, very lean, and they shouldn't be too big and heavy and fill our RAM. So to sum it up again, instances must not be big, they should be as small as possible. Also, that way they don't fill the RAM too much. So if you compare it to a car, I took a picture from The Incredibles, and if our instances are so big, nothing fits into our RAM, you know? Like in this car, our instances are so huge and so packed full, there's only one guy has got place in the car, which represents the RAM. As compared to if we have very small instances, we can fit many guys into the car. Now let's look how this works in the RAM. So you should remember this slide from one of my previous videos. And just to fresh you up a little bit, these here are the variables that should be shared between all the instances. And here we have the current HP variable, which needs to be stored in each variable. How flyweight works is that each instance has a reference to an object which contains the shared data. If you look at the circling one here, it needs to have an instance variable which refers to the circling stat object, which is only stored once in memory. So, and each instance of circling needs to have this reference. So that's the downside that I told you about flyweight has. So each instance of the object needs to have one reference to this shared object. So that way each instance has 64-bit, at least on a 64-bit operating system. So each instance has 64-bit additionally to its normal instance data. But no matter how big this circling stats variable would get, so if we had, 500 different variables, each instance wouldn't grow. They stay that small. And you have these 500 variables only once in your memory, and they're only referred to by your instances, okay? So if you get this, then the code should be really easy to understand. But this is an absolutely key concept to get. So let's see how we can implement this in code. However, before I show you any code, please be warned. The code that I'm going to show you now is not the code that you should use in Unity. It's the basic principle. But in order to use this for Unity, I need to explain to you what a scriptable object is. And that's something I need to devote a few videos to. So just keep that in mind, and please don't copy paste this code because it just won't work. All right. So this is our circling class, and you can see we have the private variable for its instance variable for the HP. And we have this variable with circling stats, and that's another class I declared down here. And this is just a reference to this class. So if I would program this in plain C#, not in Unity, what I would do is I instantiate one single instance of circling stats. And then I instantiate, I don't know, 500 circlings. And each of those circlings just has a reference to this single instance, okay? That's how you would do it in plain C#. However, in Unity, you might want to take a little different approach, because the problem is, if you do it like that in Unity, the game designer won't be able to change any of these variables anyways, because you instantiate the circling stats in a line of code, and it wouldn't get the benefit from it. So we need to create a scriptable object.